Hello, I'm Phil Darst, and I'm bringing you today at Cooking with Phil again. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to cook something a little special, I think. It's a curry. It's going to be a simple curry made with garbanzo beans. Sometimes we call them chickpeas. Over in India they call them channa. But we're going to use those and a lot of spices. I want to show you spices. You know, I believe that one of the things about spices is you can create a large variety of meals just by changing spices a little bit. And as you're going to see in a minute, I use a lot of them. I got them all over the place so that when I want a dish that reminds me of this country or that, I can easily do it with the spices. Now we're going to put some vegetables in it too, and you'll see that in just a minute. So the next thing is, let's take a look at spices. Here we are over here at the counter where you can see what we're going to put in our dish today. I've got garbanzo beans here. Now those are dried beans. If I wanted to, I could have soaked those last night and cooked them today, but actually I took the easy way out. So what we're going to use today is going to be canned beans. You can usually pick these up at most stores. And one of my favorite things that I use quite often is the crushed tomatoes. You can see they're fire roasted, which gives them that little extra bit of flavor. And coconut milk is another ingredient, which is sometimes put in a dish like this and sometimes not. We're going to choose to use it because the coconut milk, to me, gives it a special flavor. And then we even have here some coconut flour if we need it to thicken the dish a little bit so that it isn't too fluid. I like to use tomatoes again, and this is a tomato powder that we have. Actually, it's a bullion. I don't use a lot of it, but I think it really gives that little tomatoey flavor that I enjoy. And now we'll get to the spices. If you want to know what these two things here are, I'm going to tell you. This is going to be our bread. I'm going to make up some bread here. I'll fry it up a little bit. This is going to be a naan bread. What this is a mistake. When I took the naan bread dough out of the refrigerator, I thought I'd put it in a crock pot along with the onions that you'll see in a few minutes and let it warm up. Well, it got a little bit too warm. So now we have a Bajan naan biscuit. I'll try that later, and if it's good, I'll tell you about it. May put it on a recipe. Now let's get into the spices themselves. And don't think you have to run out and buy all the spices that I've had. I've accumulated some of these over time. This is cumin seed. It's going to be a little bit different than cumin. You'll see how we use it shortly. And then we have the ground cumin powder, which we'll put a little dash in our seasonings. The other item that I enjoy is the cardamom seed. We'll put some of those in there. We're going to smash them first, and we leave the husk in there. That may be a surprise for somebody, but it really gives it a unique flavor. Cloves. Cloves are something that the Bajans use, people over in Barbados and a lot of Caribbean, so we'll be putting some cloves in there along with some peppercorns, just a few. I'm going to show you how I grind those in my mortar and pestle soon. And then here's thyme, which is one of my favorite herbs, along with rosemary. You know, Garfunkel and like that stuff. Simon and Garfunkel used to sing about that. And we've got anise seed. Now, I've always found out that anise goes very, very well with tomatoes. So we'll put a dash of that in. And another thing that's used in the Caribbean quite a bit is mustard seeds. So we're going to put them in there, a dash of that. And then, of course, salt. Everybody's got to have sea salt. So we have a little bit of ground sea salt in there. And then we have the Madras curry powder. Now, this is a special brand that we find over in the Caribbean used quite a bit. You probably are familiar with what we know as curry powder, which is largely turmeric and 2 or 3 other interesting ingredients that give it that special taste. This is a little different yet. Now the other thing that I have here is some hot sauce. This is habanero extra picante, and it comes from the habanero pepper, which is a terribly hot pepper. If you know anything about Scoville rating, this is very, very, very high on the Scoville rating. So we'll use a little bit of this in there. If we were in Barbados, we'd use what we call the Bajan hot sauce. It's a special hot sauce that I brought back with me when I came, but I ran out of it because I love the stuff. Then we always have to have some ginger in most of the dishes from there. And of course, one of my favorites, garlic. I think if they had garlic ice cream, I'd love to try that. And some peppers. We've got some peppers here that we like to add in to some dishes. So that's probably about it for now. Now, what I wanted to show you here, we're going to talk about spices. If you give me just a minute, I'll give you a little spice tour. Well, here we are at the spice rack. Now, I'm getting a little personal here, showing you my hoard of spices, but you can see that we have ample spices up there. Each one of those baskets has a dozen different spices in it, and we use those quite frequently. The other thing that you'll see over here, these are special to me because my granddaughter Louisa sends me these for gifts. They come from North Carolina. They're from a company called Spice Walla, and this is a drink that I drink. You put that in there, it's turmeric and milk, and it's kind of an interesting item. This is harissa. I'm not going to show you each one of these now, but to give you an idea of the variety of spices, I see garam masala there. There's a lot of East Indian spices. I do like to cook East Indian dishes quite a bit. We have to remember that that's where curry came from, as curry came from East India, and in the Middle East they use a lot of garbanzo beans. Then there's some other spices there that I have loose. I buy those at a health food store here in town. I won't go into detail with all those. And then we've got some canisters over here full of spices. So I just want you to see that that's where I get a lot of variety in my meals, and I enjoy it. So I'm telling you this simply because when you go to a store, you may find a different and unique spice. Google it, see how and where it's used. Add that to a dish, get a little bit bold, and I think you'll surprise yourself, your family, your friends, any guests that you have, and enjoy it. So that's the end of the spice tour for now. We'll get back together later. Okay, I'm back. I washed out the garbanzo beans, and I've got them straining in here, taking that moisture or salty stuff out of it, so we've got plain garbanzos. I'm going to do something here that I sometimes have success with and sometimes I don't. This is a good piece of naan bread that we have, so I'm going to roll that out a little bit. I think we'll punch it first and punch it down just a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to reach over here and grab some flour. This is just plain old everyday flour, and we put that on there so it doesn't stick to our mat a little bit. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and then we'll turn it a few times. I think you can see what we're doing. Now again, this is a piece of naan bread, and one of the things that we have to remember about beans, legumes, garbanzos, those things is they have protein, but in order to get and utilize all of the amino acids, we need some type of a grain. So this is a naan bread that I made a few nights ago. I use my own recipe. I've got a sourdough recipe that I use, and I may share that with you one of these days if we get to it. I got some other things that are priorities. That's a pretty good sized piece. So I'm going to reach over here and get me some olive oil, and we'll put a little bit of olive oil on here. And I guess if you allow me, I'll smooth that around with my hands. And then shortly I'm going to show you how we fry that. But first, I guess that's going to be okay. That's a 5-second rule. That went on the floor too long. I'm going to get ready to get this garlic ready. And I'm sure you've seen how I've done this before, but just in case, this is one of the ways that we take the stuff off the garlic and get it ready. And the other ingredient that's important here to us is going to be ginger. So I think the first thing that you do with ginger is to do the same thing as you do with garlic. You got to take what I call maybe the husks, the skins, whatever we are, off of it. And then I'm going to take it over here and run it through the processor. So here's the garlic, or the ginger that we've got, and I just take a spoon, and it's pretty easy to scrape it off. And the nice thing about that is it don't cut up the fingers so badly. I whack them up every once in a while on something here and there, but for this process, you can see that's a good piece of ginger. I can feel the juice coming right out of that, and it sure smells great. You know, I like ginger. Ginger is good for you if you're not aware of that. It is very good for digesting the stomach. Supposedly, some people believe that it does heal some ailments and prevent some others, so I like to use ginger. You know, that's where we get the name ginger ale. I know some Jamaican friends of mine that used to make ginger beer, and wasn't alcoholic, but they used a lot of ginger pulverized with sugar, and that was tasty stuff. And of course they added water. Now I'm going to leave a mess behind me, and I'm going to chop up this, and then I'm going to meet you over here at the stove in just a jiffy. And I did that okay without getting whacked, so I like to get those a little bit smaller. We don't want to surprise anybody and have a big hunk of that stuff in here. I want to show you too, I did cut up the peppers. We're going to put some of them in there. You saw them in the basket, and I think peppers are always good. Caribbeans use a lot of peppers in their stuff, and so do I. There's something nice about them, and I've used all three. I've used the red, I've used the yellow, and I've used a little bit of the green, which is actually turning red now because it's getting kind of ripe. So with that, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to meet you over here to the stove, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, I think we got everything here in sight. I've got almost everything there except Manon. Let me bring Manon over. And we're going to dump this in the skillet and see what it does. I hope you can see that there, because you can see already it's going to start bubbling and give us a nice little flavor. We're going to brown that a little bit. I'm not going to worry about timing it. I'll keep my eye on it. I got this one over here cooking too. So the first thing that we're going to do on this one is we're going to put in just a little bit of olive oil on there. I'm not going to use as much because when you see our onions, you'll see we got olive oil there. Now, I mentioned before we got two different types of cumin. These are cumin seeds, and the cumin seeds give it that extra special flavor. We don't need a lot. We're just going to put them in here a little bit, and when they start getting ready to present the flavor, they are going to start sizzling and sounding pretty good. Now, the other thing that I did was I put a bunch of seasonings in here. They're all ready for us. I'm just going to dump them in. I've measured them. I'll show you that in the recipe, which is going to be down below. But the other thing I want you to notice here, I've got my mortar and pestle. Now in there I've got some cloves, I've got some sea salt, which gives us a little abrasion. I've got the cardamom seed pods. I'm going to crack them so that the stuff inside comes out and flavors it. And then I got some black pepper. And I've mentioned in another video that I like cracking my own black pepper sometimes. Now I'm watching that skillet with one eye, and I think I'm going to take my eye off this in just a second. If you can see, that bread over there is starting to bubble up pretty well, isn't it? So we must have done a pretty good job on that. I don't know how well you like naan bread, but I like it. Doesn't have lots of calories in it, but it is tasty. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to flip this over in just a jiffy and put it on this side, and you can see, yeah, it's black and it's dark, but it's still nice and tender. Of course, that's the idea of it. We want it kind of charred on the edge. And while I'm over here, I'm just going to turn the oven off, and we'll start getting our other stuff ready here. Now, the cardamom seeds look like they're about ready to go. The next step is I'm going to put in my, I won't call it tomato sauce because this is different. This is actually crushed tomatoes. So I'm putting in a little bit of that with the cardamom seeds. That's a good spoonful. You hear that crackling a little bit there. So that's going to give us some tomato flavor and body. We're going to add a little something to that. I'm going to put a little bit more tomatoes in there. And remember, it's got some things that go well with that. Now, we're going to start putting in our spices. And again, this is what's going to make it Bajan. This makes it good. And then I'm putting the other spices in here. Alright, I just moved the camera just a little bit so you could get a little better view of what we're doing. First, I'm going to put in all the garlic and ginger that we minced up earlier and let that start sauteing a little bit. So that's heating up, and I'm going to walk over to the crock pot. I know a lot of people don't use crock pots anymore. I do, and I'm going to show you why. I like to caramelize onions and do things slow cooking, and I don't have to stand around and watch onions cook or stir them for a lot of times if I do it this way. So, and one of the things are our caramelized onions I just mentioned to you, so we'll put them in here first. Now, I don't have to put a lot of oil in with the garlic and the ginger because there's a lot of oil down in here. So those are just going to simmer for a while. That's hot, I'll tell you that. Just come right out. Those I started last night. I say those, that's just one onion. But it's a nice big onion. We chopped it up, let it stay in that crock pot all night, and that was going to add quite a bit to our flavor here. So we've got spices, we've got our tomato stuff in here. We're warming up. Now here go the peppers that we cut up, and we're sauteing those. I think that gives it a little taste. We got the red ones in there for sweet. The greens are a little bit stronger, and the yellows are kind of in between. And the next thing, we're going to put in the star of our meal, and there go the chickpeas. So now we've got chickpeas in there. Chickpeas, garbanzos, I guess some people call them channa, depending on where you are. So we're starting to simmer those now, and they're going to simmer for quite a while, but we're going to put in what I believe makes a big difference, especially down in Bajan country, down there in Barbados and in other Caribbean countries where they have real true coconuts, and they use a lot of coconut oil, coconut meat, coconut flakes, coconut chips. They think, and I don't think they're wrong, that coconut is a very healthy, beneficial product for the diet. So I eat a lot of it. I don't drink much regular milk or cream or any of those things. I use coconut milk. So what I'm going to do at this point is just to kind of slow her down and let this simmer, let the flavors kind of adjust. I'm going to take a break and have some more coffee, and I'm going to have another chunk of this. I already cheated and I had a little bit of this. It's good stuff. So I will see you over at the table when I'm ready to eat. And thanks for coming. Well, I'm sitting down to have a bite to eat now. I've earned it. I've put this together and I am certainly going to enjoy it. I hope. Let's see. Mighty good. It was worth the effort. I think you'd enjoy it too if you'll do what we did here today. It's not hard. It's just a matter of following instructions. You noticed I already had a bite out of the naan bread. It's pretty good. Sometimes I just dab a little bit on here like that. That's the way they do it in the Caribbean. I'm going to enjoy some of my coffee now. I'm a coffee lover. If you notice up above my head in some of the videos, you see a shelf with all those colored cans. Each of those has a special gourmet coffee. I enjoy coffee, and I get a lot of that from friends, family. And I pick it up when I come and go when I travel. So I've got, I think, 20 some up there, and every day I have a different cup or two or three. About two cups is about all I have, but I thoroughly enjoy it. So that's what I'm doing now. I certainly enjoyed having you here to enjoy what we're doing and to watch. I want you to duplicate it. I hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell so you can see some of our new videos coming out. We've got more curries. We'll have Indian curry. We'll have Thai curry. We'll have chicken curries. And then we'll have a lot of other dishes too. I'll probably get into details of how I make the naan bread, but I've also got a starter that I've made myself. I've had it for over a year. I use it for naan. I use it for pizza. I use it for roti skins, other things. So there's a lot that we'll do, and some of our sauces, you'll see it. Just come and see us. Thanks again for showing up today. I hope you enjoyed this. Sure appreciate having you. Thanks. And I'll have one more bite before I say goodbye, because that's good stuff.